Hi there. Hi everyone. My name is Nancy and I'm joined by Amy Rancer, and we are part of a team at Pinterest called The Studio, which is our in-house creative team. As you all may know, Pinterest is a very visual and creative platform, so creative on our platform is super important, and our role is to help partners of all sizes build the best content and creative on Pinterest, which basically means we have kind of the best job in the world. Before we get into the bulk of the presentation, I wanted to share a little bit about what you'll be seeing today. So we've broken up this webinar into 4 sections. First, we wanted to give an overview of what ideas look like on Pinterest, give a little bit of context for why people come to the platform. Amy is going to take you through some creative guidelines that we advise for all content on our platform, as well as some examples of brands that have kind of taken it beyond the pin and really done something unique for the holidays. And then lastly, we'll wrap with some holiday idea thought starters. Difficult to do a true brainstorm session in a webinar setting, but we're going to attempt to give you some kind of questions that hopefully will spark ideas of how your business can build awesome creative on Pinterest in time for the holidays. All right. So the first section, ideas on Pinterest. Like I mentioned, before we get into the actual creative guidelines, we wanted to share some context for how ideas and creative exist on our platform. And it all kind of goes back to our mission, which is we are here to help people discover and do the things that they love. And that's a really powerful mission, and I know personally that's one of the things that drew me to join the team at Pinterest is this ability of our platform and technology to really connect people to things that they love and help them take action on it. Pinterest is one of the leaders in the space of visual discovery, and we have 200 million monthly users coming on our platform to find things that they love, and what we want to do is help them actually take action on those things. So we know that behavior is different on Pinterest. When we're thinking about building creative, we want to acknowledge that the way pinners behave is a little different than other digital platforms or apps that exist out there. And some examples of what we mean by that. We know that people come to Pinterest to design their lives. There's this planning mindset that pinners have when they log on to the app. They're looking for what to cook, what to wear, what they should look like, what their home should look like. They're exploring possibilities for their lives. And even if you're a pinner, you may have experienced this notion of going down the Pinterest rabbit hole. Maybe you open up the app and you're looking for a recipe, but the next thing you know, you've kind of gone down this rabbit hole and you're now browsing all of these other types of content and ideas. But there's always this element of productivity to it, and there's this phrase that we've used internally called productive play, which I think really aptly describes kind of the pinner behavior that we see on the platform. There's this optimism, there's this future forward-looking mentality that drives the behavior that happens. And we actually see that this planning mindset means that planning and behaviors mapped to certain holidays or moments occur sooner on Pinterest than on other platforms. We see people starting to save and search months out before the given occasion. So whereas social is really about real time and search is about that moment kind of leading up to that key tentpole occasion when the customer already knows what they want and they're looking for kind of the quickest path there. Pinterest occupies this really unique space where the pinner's still in this open-minded state of planning. And we actually see that in some of the data that we see on our platform. For example, search, which is a growing area of our business, is actually 97% unbranded. And so what that means is when people come to Pinterest and they're searching for ideas, it's often without that final brand or product in mind. They're searching for running shoes. They're not searching for Nike, for example. And I think that's just important to keep in mind as you're thinking of how to build creative for the platform, because there is this intent-driven mindset, but it's still open-minded and open to new ideas before they make that final decision. Another thing that we talk about a lot is that Pinterest is for yourself, not your selfies. Fun little catchphrase. And what we mean by that is that Pinterest is more personal than it is social. People don't necessarily pin or save things to broadcast messages about themselves or to show how cool they are or where they went on vacation. They're actually using the platform to find things they love and refine their tastes. And so everyone's feed is going to be dramatically different. What I see in my feed is very different than what Amy sees in her feed, and that's a result of our different preferences and styles, and also a result of Amy being much more stylish than I am. And we actually see this manifest, this personalization manifest in what we call the idea loop. So idea standing for inspire, discover, evaluate, and act. And what this means is when people see something that in their home feed that inspires them, they then take it to this discovery step where they're actually seeing new ideas based on things that they've saved in the past, and then able to evaluate their options, looking at related pins and content, and then ultimately taking action on that, whether that's making that recipe, buying that outfit, trying that makeup tutorial. It spans across all verticals. And we're doing more and more to invest in the act part of our platform and making sure that our products really enable people to act. And this action-oriented mindset really comes through in shopping behavior. So this is actually a study that was done by Mary Meeker. You guys may have heard of her annual report. But what was interesting about this is that people use Pinterest to shop, to find and shop for products well above any other platform. And I think this just speaks to all the things that we've mentioned about the planning mindset and the intent and the reason why people come to Pinterest. And then the last thing that makes us a little different is that we're about time well spent, not just time spent. So in this digital era, you often hear about people and other platforms talking about kind of keeping you on site and time spent on the site. But in a way that's true to our mission, we're really about getting you great ideas, but also encouraging you to take action on them, even if that means putting down your phone and putting down Pinterest, dare I say it. And we've been investing in more action-oriented product features to deliver on this part of our mission. And fueling all of this action is really ideas, which are the heart of what Pinterest is. There are 100 billion ideas on Pinterest across every different category you can imagine. And you may be surprised to know that a lot of this content, roughly 75% of it, comes from brands and businesses. And what that means, it doesn't mean that brands are spamming Pinterest with their content. It actually means that pinners are going to business sites, seeing things that they like, and saving it onto Pinterest. And so there is this natural alignment with what brands and businesses want to share and what pinners find valuable in their search and in their planning mindset. So that begs the question, if ideas are the heart of Pinterest, what makes a good idea on Pinterest? So I'm going to pass it over to Amy, who will take you through some of the creative guidelines.
Thanks, Nancy. Hey everyone, I'm Amy, and after studying, tens of thousands of pins to see what works, our in-house creative team called the Studio, like Nancy mentioned, has learned really a lot about what kind of pins work best and why. And so really there's no one-size-fits-all creative strategy that works for everyone, but hopefully these tips, based on what we've found after studying the top performing pins on Pinterest, will really help you create great pins for your category, and especially during the holidays. All right, and so the best creative is, well, pretty creative. It's part art and science, and there's really no single approach that works for everyone, but the following advice hopefully will help guide you to creative ideas that work well on our platform. And so from imagery to the text overlay, a pin is the best opportunity to inspire pinners with an idea or possibility. All right. So let's now get into some tactics on really how to actually achieve helpful, beautiful, and actionable pin creative during the holiday season. And so from an internal Pinterest study where we looked across over probably around 100,000 pins, we were able to identify these 6 tactics that make pins more helpful, beautiful, and actionable. And you'll kind of hear us talk about that quite a bit. So you won't use all of them at once, really, but rather you can mix and match and kind of use these different strategies depending on your objectives. But really know that these are in your toolbox of things to test and learn as you're creating pins and optimizing for any of your campaigns. And so the following are: provide detailed descriptions, play with compelling imagery, use a vertical aspect ratio, add copy for clarity, include tasteful branding, and bring your best ideas. And so now I'm actually going to go through each of these examples so you can get a good idea of what each means. Awesome. Okay. So when someone taps a pin for a close-up, they'll also see your description. And a good description can make your idea really more compelling and actionable. So if your objective is to drive clicks, use the description copy to hint that there's more to see on your website. And a strong call to action like shop, make, find, or buy will really help encourage pinners to take the next step, especially during the holiday. And so for this holiday, I think this is the perfect opportunity really for you to provide additional detail, perhaps on that delicious Christmas cookie recipe or this Arvo watch example to the left on the ultimate gifts for dad. Cool. So because Pinterest is a visual platform, using images that stand out and say something about what you have to offer will give you a great advantage. So don't be afraid to have image stand out in the feed, or even have your focal point be like this Kate Spade pin on the left. You know, whether it's a backpack or jewelry, really showcasing your product in unique and beautiful ways on Pinterest will do yourself a favor. And as always, what I like to say is high resolution, high quality images will always look best. We're really not a user-generated content platform, so ensuring that your images are of the highest quality is super important. Okay, so Pinterest is a mobile-first platform, and actually 80% of our usage on platform is via mobile. So that's kind of a lot. And when you look at pins in feed, you can see that they're organized into columns. So I'd keep in mind that vertical pins take up more space and tend to stand out more on the platform. And so for pins, the ideal aspect ratio is probably a 2 to 3, so 600 pixels wide by 900 pixels high. And that's the minimum, but you can go over a little bit more to the maximum as well. All right, so one of my favorites is adding copy for clarity. So using text overlays are a really, really easy way to write context, a clear takeaway, or really elicit an action from a pinner. And I think, as you can see from some of the other examples we've talked about, it's used in a combination or a part of other tactics to make pins helpful, beautiful, and actionable. And so we don't really have a limit on the amount of text on the image, but make sure that the idea can still shine through via the image. So when you do use text overlay, for instance, make it part of the design and be sure all the text is large enough to read easily on a mobile device, since the majority of our usage is on mobile. And if your pin doesn't provide quite enough content on its own, try incorporating some copy onto the image to help land your message. So you can provide headers, subheads, annotations, or really kind of take a creative approach to how your type interacts with the image. So for instance, this Kohl's example on the left provides context with a clear takeaway, gifts for the trendsetter. Or perhaps this more scrumptious Bailey's example on the right calls out different ingredients to make a seasonally delightful recipe that I kind of want to make. All right, so branding is the next tip and can be extremely valuable on Pinterest, whereas this probably might be different from other platforms that you're using or seeing. So branding on Pinterest adds credibility to your pin without being distracting or overly commercial. And you can see different examples here with the watermark logo in the corners, or with the Tiffany example on the right, really taking advantage of that box and product placement. And again, branding also really communicates useful information about the pin to people and really sets expectation around quality, price, availability, and style. So one important thing to note, though, is that if you do include your logo in the pin image, make sure it's large enough to be seen in the Pinterest grid view on mobile, but not as so obnoxiously large that it takes up the entire pin image. Just something to know. Okay, so pins should represent your actionable, inspiring, once again, ideas. And so people come to Pinterest to find ideas and help from brands and businesses like yours especially, and they want pins that help them try or do something new. So I'd really try to frame up your message in a way that's helpful and actionable to pinners. So whether it's new or novel, give them a little something more to hold on to. So for example, you're thinking about gifts for the holiday season, but you're kind of on a budget. So this pin on the left really shows you that top gifts under $50 is a reality. Or if you're gluten-free, this Muddy Buddies example from Chex on the right gives you a delicious snack to indulge in during the holidays. Okay, so we showed you some great pin examples and kind of talked about some creative guidelines, but here I really wanted to show some examples that kind of go beyond the pin, like Nancy was talking about. And the first one up is from Target. So here is an idea that's pretty universally applicable. And so to ease the holiday burden, since we all know holidays are pretty stressful, Target partnered with Pinterest to create a simple quiz-based experience that served up, literally, recipe ideas based on a user's pinning behavior and interests. So guests completed the quiz, such as I'm hosting or I'm invited, traditional or trendy, and then received a custom board populated with ideas and recipes that fit their personal preferences. So guests also have the option to share their custom board with everyone in the family to help them plan it, pin it, and bring it, and hopefully eat it. All right, the next one is an example going just a bit further, talking all about holiday gifting moments. And so John Lewis, based in the UK, actually had a broader campaign that included elements of making the season just a bit more helpful. They created digital pins on our platform as well as paper pins on ideas how to gift products, but make it just a bit more special. So for example, the pin on the left, if you're giving socks, which is awesome and great, map out a path on where to take some quality time walks with the socks and the gifter or the giftee. Or if you're giving a Le Creuset, add in your favorite recipe to just elevate the gift, just to make it a bit more thoughtful. So these are all just some ideas on kind of things that you can go beyond the pin as well, and just instead of, some best practices. And now I'm gonna give it over to Nancy to think of some more, deeper strategies.
Great. So I mentioned earlier we wanted to have a little bit of a kind of creative thought starter section within this webinar. I think the best ideas are really custom to your brand and business with the understanding of how people use the platform. And so hopefully you've seen some great examples that Amy walked through and understand a little bit more about, pinner behavior. And we wanted to share a few what-if questions to kind of spark some thinking as you guys are getting ready for your holiday marketing plans. A little bit of background, what if is actually the theme for our Pinterest brand campaign. So you may have seen stuff out in market all around what if and different scenarios of pinners trying things that may be a little scary and bold, but ladder up to our mission of encouraging people to try new things and discover and do things that they love. And so we kind of wanted to take that same theme and bring it to these thought starters. So the first idea is, what if you created a non-traditional gift guide? I think we've all seen the traditional gift guides, which are gifts for her, gifts for him, gifts for mom. But I think what's really great about Pinterest is we just know a lot more about the nuances of people's interests and behaviors. So for example, probably unknown fact, but motorcycles and tattoos are actually huge on our platform. We see a lot of people kind of pinning things related to those categories, a lot of things that you wouldn't expect, all these different interest groups that may seem kind of niche, but have actually found their people on Pinterest. Teachers are also another huge audience and interest on Pinterest. So think about how your business could maybe cater to some of these non-traditional interests with a bit of an unexpected gift guide.
Awesome. And so what if you inspired pinners to do something that they loved? And so kind of, talking about kind of making a bigger strategy of kind of taking that John Lewis example in the same vein. How can you actually take content from just giving and lean into experiences? So whether it's adding a recipe or maybe, just adding a personalized activity that you can do with someone, what are some things that you can kind of connect and make it a bit more thoughtful?
Another thought starter is, what if you used Pinterest trends to spark a great idea? So what we mean by this is we actually have a lot of great data through pinner behavior, and that has proven to be really valuable for a lot of our partners. Just an example of this is Michael's earlier this year. Michael's the craft store worked with Pinterest to uncover a trend that shibori Japanese tie-dyeing was actually trending up year over year. This is something that was picking up in popularity, and as a result, Michael's actually created a product, a shibori dyeing kit that people can buy from their site. And so taking this trend data that we have available that's published on our blog, I think could be a great way to use as a spark for creative on our platform. So for example, if you joined some of the previous webinars, you may have seen some insights that were revealed in our holiday trends report. Some examples of trending gift ideas that are happening right now, organization options like jewelry hangers, key racks, homemade calendars are trending up this season, as are creative crafts like wooden card tracks, DIY fidget spinners. That still hasn't gone away. And teaching toys, sensory toys, learning tips, things for kids. So knowing that these things are trending up, how could your business maybe develop content that speaks to these trends or kind of taps into these things that are very topical?
And so what if you gave pinners ideas to make the holidays less stressful? And I feel like that's a common truth for a lot of people. The holidays are a really chaotic time. You can let alone not have time to buy gifts or even tend to yourself. So how can you create content and ideas that make the holidays less stressful? So perhaps providing entertaining hacks, such as like last-minute appetizers or easily wrappable gifts. I know I hate wrapping, so any way that I can alleviate the wrapping process, that's on my to-do list. Or even including messaging that says free delivery or one-stop shop. Really ideas just to alleviate the stress from the holiday season. And actually, we've seen terms with the words like easy and quick trend super high the few days before the holidays. So really consider integrating that language into your actual pin descriptions and pin imagery, since a lot of people are like me and are last-minute shoppers.
And our last prompt is, what if your business could take pinners from inspiration to action? We've kind of touched upon this a lot during the webinar today, but I think this is so key to just how pinners actually interact and how their behavior changes over time. So as we mentioned before, Pinterest planning starts months earlier relative to other platforms or digital apps. And so we encourage our partners to start thinking about creative on Pinterest first. And in those early months, really lean into that inspiration mindset. They may not be feeling the pressure of finding the holiday gifts quite yet, but they want to kind of see ideas, and they're looking in home feed and saving things that they come across. As we get a little bit closer to the holidays, we actually see searches increase in volume, and at a certain point it actually surpasses saves. And as you can imagine, people who are searching have a little bit more intent. Maybe they're looking for specific types of gifts. Again, still mostly unbranded, but at least with a bit more of a focus on taking action. So your creative during that phase should also reflect that and be a little bit more actionable.
Okay. So we went through a lot, and I know we kind of went through a lot, but wanted to include 4 key takeaways. One being from meals to outfits to really everything in between. People come to Pinterest to plan all aspects of their holidays. So planning starts super early. In fact, like Nancy said, around 3 to 4 months out. So really when you're creating content, remember to create content that people will be searching for now and then last minute like myself. Again, test and learn your creative using these tips and tricks and guidelines that we talked about. From using detailed descriptions to adding text overlay, create content that will actually resonate with your audience and that you can learn from. And then lastly, like Nancy said, there's so many holiday ideas out there. So really remember to stand out, whether visually or with text overlay. Be unique with your ideas, and again, stay true to your brand.